Mohin Bezrat Hashem, we will now learn the Kabbalistic Kavanot of the Pesach Seder. Introduction. In order for one to properly understand the mystical significance and the latent spiritual power of the Pesach holiday, I must disclose a tremendous amount of information about the order of Sephirotic movements and their relationship to us. Now, mystical meditations, Kavanot as we call them, cannot be understood or performed correctly unless one knows not only what he is doing, but also why this is being done. The revelation of God's light on Pesach night is unique. It is a seed and a taste of the coming redemption to be brought us by Mashiach. In order to assist our participation in the mystical side of the Pesach Seder, I must begin with an explanation of the elements involved. Once these are understood, I can proceed to explain how they are to be used. I have endeavored to make things as easy to understand as possible. In doing so, I admit that I've had to leave out many details that the Ari'zal and Rashash outline in such depth. I pray to Hashem that my endeavors will assist many in using this material for the sake of the Holy One, blessed be the Shekhinah. The secret of the four Sefirot Mohin. There are many levels of divine intervention in our daily lives, yet each of these occur based upon our individual merits in the eyes of Shemayim. Moreover, only Shemayim knows when we deserve spiritual intervention or a miracle. The teachings of the Ariel made it clear that the divine intervention in human history that led to the holiday of Pesach was a most unusual event, one that was not predicated upon the actions of man. National redemption of the nature of Pesach has only happened once in human history, but it is prophesied to happen again, bringing to fruition the Messianic era. In the vast majority of times, God interacts with our world in accordance to our deeds. The greater our collective merit, the more obvious becomes the hand of God in daily affairs. The Ariel outlines four distinct levels of divine intervention, which he refers to in Kabbalistic metaphor as Mohin, or Sephirotic brains. According to the mystical teachings, the 7 days of creation were created by God to manifest the 7 lower Sefirot. Each of these Sefirot are manifestations and aspects of God's light in creation. Each one reveals to us a distinct aspect of the divine plan. Yet each of these 7 serves as a type of a body or form to a higher, more fluid and mobile aspect of divine light, which serves to mold, change, and breathe through the lower 7. This higher light consists of the upper 3 Sefirot, which again are called the Sephirotic brains or Mohin. Based upon human interaction with our world, created as it was through the 7 lower Sefirot, the upper 3 manifest in either minor or major forms, 4 different aspects in total. In order to gain an even basic understanding of these 4 levels of divine intervention in human history, we must introduce and explain these concepts using the terms of the Ari'zal himself. The Ari'zal speaks of there being 4 Mohin. The 4 Mohin belong to 2 general categories: Katnut, minor, and Gadlut, major. Each of these is then divided into 2 levels: rishon, first degree, and sheni, second degree, with the second degree being the highest. And therefore, the 4 Mohin are: number 1, Katnut rishon, minor, first degree. Number 2, Katnut sheni, minor, second degree. Number 3, Gadlut rishon, major, first degree. And 4, Gadlut sheni, major, second degree. However, in order of ascent from lowest to highest, their order is: number 1, Katnut rishon, minor, first degree. Number 2, Gadlut rishon, major, first degree. Number 3, Katnut sheni, minor second degree. And finally, number 4, Gadlut sheni, major second degree. In the Sefirot, the Katnut, both rishon, first degree, and sheni, second degree, correspond to the Saphira Bina, whereas the Gadlut, both rishon, first degree, and sheni, second degree, correspond to the Saphira Chochmah. God always maintains his universe. Therefore, the lowest level of Mohin, Katnut rishon, must always be present. If this were lacking for even a moment, then there would be no adhesive, if you will, to bind and hold together the subatomic particles that form our universe. If the minimal amount of divine intervention, meaning the Mohin, were not present, the universe could not exist. In relationship to divine names, the level of Katnut rishon is represented by the name Elokim. Therefore, it is the name Elokim that is associated with the creation story. Reference Genesis 1:1. Elokim, therefore, maintains the world. God's intervention in human history by bringing Israel out of Egypt was for 2 reasons. First, it was to fulfill his promise to the Avot and to establish for himself a people. Second, was to manifest a higher level of divine manifestation, Mohin, in the world. And this was the manifestation of his essential name, Yud-Kei-Vav-Kei, the name that introduces a random spiritual element in creation. Yud-Kei-Vav-Kei represents God's mercy, and therefore intercedes and supersedes the natural order of creation. Elokim represents the laws of nature, the basic and lowest level of divine presence in creation. Yud-Kei-Vav-Kei overrides the basics and introduces a higher element of grace. Therefore, when mankind deserves no special treatment from God, the divine providence manifests as the laws of nature, ruled by the name Elokim. This is Katnut Rishon. When, however, Israel observes God's commandments, given at Mount Sinai through God's mercy, i.e. his name Yud-Kei-Vav-Kei, then there is a manifestation of Gadlut Rishon. This elevation occurs on Shabbatot and Yamim Tovim, holidays, and thus, on these sacred days, there is a manifestation of both Katnut Rishon, the laws of nature, ruled by Elokim, and Gadlut Rishon, special divine dispensation, ruled by the name Yud-Kei-Vav-Kei. Therefore, on Shabbatot and Yamim Tovim, Torah is studied and comprehended with greater ease. One's mind finds it more conducive to receiving spiritual understanding. One feels, if you will, more spiritual on these days. This is because the Mohin of Gadlut Rishon are manifesting above in the Sefirot and correspondingly below in the Jewish soul. This elevation, however, is limited to the realm of mind. Nonetheless, it elevates the mind above the level of Elokim, Katnut Rishon, consciousness, that perceives the universe as only being operated by rote, without the intervention of a creator. Yud-Kei-Vav-Kei, Gadlut Rishon consciousness, enables one to recognize the presence of God immanently among us. In review, the weekdays are ruled by Elokim, Katnut Rishon, which manifests in creation the lowest aspect of the Sefirat Bina. On Shabbatot and Yamim Tovim, Yud-Kei-Vav-Kei rules Gadlut Rishon, which manifests in creation the lowest aspect of the Sefirat Chochmah. As our present universe continues, we have times when first degree, Rishon Mohin, from both Katnut and Gadlut are manifest. However, in order to manifest the second degree of Mohin, both Katnut Sheni and Gadlut Sheni, something out of the ordinary is needed. When Israel are observing the mitzvot of the Torah, they elevate nature to reveal the Mohin level of Gadlut Rishon of Yud-Kei-Vav-Kei, alongside and above the Mohin level of Katnut Rishon of Elokim. When this occurs, and there is balance and harmony between the physical and spiritual realms, then mankind's thinking faculties naturally expand. Intelligence and knowledge flourish. Mankind, therefore, discovers in nature secret hidden wonders that, when revealed, help transform our physical universe from a jungle into a paradise. This level of revelation and perception is from the side of intellect, and thus the Sefirat Binah. Yet it is obviously of a higher aspect of Binah than the mere laws of nature expressed through the name Elohim. This higher aspect of Binah, acquired only after the basic form of Yud Kei Vav Kei Gadlut Rishon is manifest, is called Katnut Sheni, minor divine intervention of the second degree. It is called Katnut minor as opposed to Gadlut major because it is invoked and pursued by man's actions. Katnut Sheni occurs when man's actions bring upon him the blessings of his obedience to God and the abundance inherited in observing his commandments. The Mohin of Katnut Sheni, the minor divine intervention of the second degree, are much higher than that of Katnut Rishon, represented by the name Elohim. Nonetheless, the two are emanations of the Sefirat Binah. The Rishon level reveals the lower half of Binah, whereas the Sheni level reveals the upper half of the Saphira. The reason why a Saphira is split into two is similar to the human mind, itself split into two. Our minds contain the conscious and the unconscious. The conscious mind is what we are now, with all our limitations and dreams. The unconscious stores within it all our unrealized potential and everything that is yet to be. Therefore, a Sefirah is divided between its lower half, which is revealed simply to maintain the worlds, and its upper half that contains its unleashed potential for the manifestation of all good things. The Mohin of the upper half of Binah, or Katnut Sheni, are also called Elohim, but with a slight twist. In order to show a difference between the upper and lower Mohin of Sheni and Rishon, the name Elohim is spelled in a slightly different way than usual. The middle letters of the name Elohim ascend to the letter that is before them to signify the ascent from the lower half to the upper half of Binah. Thus the first letter Aleph and the last letter Mem stay the same to maintain the framework of the Sefirah, yet each of the middle letters, the Lamed, the Hey, and Yud, ascend one letter. The Lamed is replaced by a Kaf, the Hey with a Dalet, and Yud with a Tet. The resulting name that is used to describe the level of Katnut Sheni, therefore, is called Akadatam, instead of Elohim. With this understood, we have covered the first three levels of the Sephirotic Mohin, which manifest divine intervention in our universe. Now, the fourth and final level, that of Gadlut Sheni, the major second degree of divine manifestation. This level does not come about through the means or interventions of man. This level can only come about as an altruistic act of our Creator, when He so wishes to reveal the fullness of His power and majesty in creation. Gadlut Sheni, the second degree major, Mohin, reveal the fullness of God's majesty and glory in creation. While this level can be grasped in the mind through individual prayer on the Shabbat, its outer manifestations will only come about when Mashiach comes. This grandiose level of Mohin manifests the direct and active hand of God in creation, without any sheath or cloak to disguise it. The Purim story was a miracle wrought by God. However, it was a different sort of miracle that was Pesach. During Purim, political plots were thwarted by wise and crafty human beings. No overt miracle happened. Therefore, the name of God is not mentioned even once in the book of Esther, to signify that God's hand worked in concealment, cloaked in the actions of politics. In the Exodus, and again when Mashiach comes, there will be no such concealment. God will reveal the Mohin of Gadlut Sheni, and like a nuclear blast, the brilliance of the divine light will melt away and destroy all opposition to the hand of God. The Mohin of Gadlut Sheni similar to those of Gadlut Rishon, are represented by the name Yud Kei Vav Kei. For this name, Yud Kei Vav Kei, is above the limitations and forces of nature. Regardless of its level of intensity, be it rishon or sheni, Yud Kei Vav Kei maintains itself the same as the supernatural force and random element introduced in creation by divine command. We have now outlined the 4 Mohin. So in review, the Mohin are the upper 3 Sefirot, Chochmah, Bina, and Dat. The first 2 levels, referred to as Katnut and Gadlut Rishon, refer to the lower halves of the Sefirot Bina and Chochmah, respectively. The higher 2 levels, referred to as Katnut and Gadlut Sheni, refer to the upper halves of these 2 Sefirot. All of these Mohin descend below through the semi-Saphira Dat. Dat is counted here instead of Ketzer, because Dat is the union of Chochmah and Bina that radiates down into the lower 7 Sefirot. Now, by the way, as you will see in all mystical literature, the 7 lower Sefirot are referred to by the name of their Sephirotic face, Partsuf, which is Zun. Zun is short for Za, which is Zer Anpin, the small face, encompassing the 6 Sefirot, and Nok, who is Malchut. In the Sephirotic realms above, the Mohin descend into Za, and then he builds Nok. Za is the supernal man, while Israel is the terrestrial man. As it is above, so it is below. As this occurs in the Sephirotic realms above, it also happens in the mind of the one contemplating these mystical movements of divine light. Before Mashiach comes, the benefits of such a meditation are exclusively individual, in that they raise up the consciousness of the one performing them. Even the level of the Mohin of Gadlut Sheni is experienced in the mind when we meditate upon the supernal Sefirot on Shabbatot and Yamim Tovim, especially on the night of the Pesach Seder. Our purpose in knowing this information about Sephirotic Mohin is to learn to apply the abstract to the concrete. By our awareness and knowledge of this process, we contemplate its happening, and as we do so, the passion of our minds and thoughts actually assist the Sephirotic movements to occur. The results of this above are still too sublime for us to perceive. However, the radiance released from such Sephirotic movement flows down the channels through the worlds until it reaches our world, specifically our minds, and those things to which our thoughts are focused. These things are the objects of the mitzvot that we are presently performing. In the case of Pesach, the Sephirotic light radiates below into our minds, and from there onto the 4 cups of wine and the matzot that we are using during the Seder. Normally, Mohin enter into Za, as explained above, 1 step at a time. First comes the Katnut, and then the Gadlut. This procedure occurs during our normal prayers. Our prayer services are specifically arranged to coordinate the Sephirotic movements above. The Sidurim, prayer books of the Ariel and the Rashash, outline the details of how our prayers form a ladder of spiritual ascent to the supernal Sefirot and for our minds that ascend along with them. Pesach is a time out of the ordinary. Unlike other times when the Mohin descend into Za, and thus into us, 1 step at a time, now on Pesach night, by the merciful divine decree, all the Mohin enter Za, and thus into us, all at once. This tremendous influx of divine light causes there to be such an abundance of spiritual power and force that the armies of evil, both spiritual and physical, are totally overwhelmed by them. As it was at the first Pesach, this light, when revealed, broke Paro's stubborn heart and killed all the firstborn in Egypt. The forces of evil were broken at that moment, and Israel was redeemed from Egypt. This is the result of the revelation of the Mohin of Gadlut Sheni, even more so when it is revealed out of its ordinary order and manifests together with all the other Mohin combined. The mystical meditations of the Seder, therefore, revolve around the manifestation of the Mohin by arousing their movement above and by drawing down their energy here below, specifically upon 4 cups of wine, 4 pieces of matzah, the upper and lower and broken afikomen in the middle. With this introduction in the Mohin, their movement and relationship to Pesach, we can now proceed to discuss the details of how to implement these most important meditations. The descent of the Mohin into Zah. Sephirotic movement occurs simultaneously in all worlds. Therefore, what transpires in the supernal realm of the world of Atzilut also happens here on earth within the corresponding aspect to Atzilut here. When one meditates upon the Sefirot and their movement above, among the Partsufim, Sephirotic faces, the sheer power of one's mind, one is assisting this movement to occur in the worlds above and in this world here below. On Seder night, we have the opportunity to radiate the light of all 4 of the Mohin simultaneously, each in their place, each in their time. Yet unlike the normal order of things, where the Mohin enter Zah according to the standard order of their grades, on Pesach night the 4 Mohin enter together. This abundance of light is what broke the stranglehold that the forces of evil had upon Israel. The 4 Mohin enter into Zah above and into man below by our performance of 2 mitzvot, the drinking of the 4 cups of wine and our eating of the matzot. Before I can proceed to explain the manner in which the Mohin descend through our observance of the mitzvot, I must first introduce some more material about the arrangement of the Sefirot and the order of the flow of divine life through them. As we know, the Mohin that enter into Zah are 3 in number, which are essentially 4. There are the Mohin from the side of Bina, the Partsuf of Ima, and there are Mohin from Chochmah, the Partsuf of Abba. There are also Mohin from the Dat, but these Mohin are only a compilation of what is received from Abba and Ima, and not anything unique of its own. The Dat receives a force from Ima called the Givurot, severities, which are 5 in number. The Dat also receives a force from Chochmah called the Chasadim, mercies, which are again 5 in number. The 5 Givurot and the 5 Chasadim make up the 10 Sefirot of the Dat. Mohin descend into Zah in accordance to the order of the Sephirotic columns. As is known, the Sefirot are arranged in 3 columns, right, left, and center. Therefore, each column receives Mohin respective to its position. The right column of Zah receives the Mohin from Abba, which is the Sefirot Chochmah, because it is the head of the right column. The left column of Zah receives the Mohin from Ima, which is the Sefirot Bina, because it is the head of the left column. The center column of Zah receives the Chasadim and the Gevurot of the Dat, for the Dat stands over the center column, even though it is not an actual Sefirah. Right, left, center. This then is the order of the descent of the Mohin into Zah. Accordingly, when one is meditating on the flow of light through the Sefirot as outlined in the Kavanot Sidurim, one begins with the right column, then shifts to the left column, finally ending in the middle column. The procedure of drawing forth of the divine light is rather a simple and mechanical method. Simply stated, the divine light signifies by one of the holy names descends from the vessel of one Saphira to another. Now, one point must be emphasized here. It's very important to remember that the Saphira is not the light. It is the vessel. The light in all the Sefirot is all one and the same. Light of the Ein Sof. Only the vessels change, never the light. Each Sefirah is a vessel that is 3 layers thick. The 3 levels of the vessel of the Sefirah are called the inner, middle, and outer layer of the vessel of the Sefirah. A specific holy name or a specific spelling of a holy name demarcates each layer of a vessel. Thus, the order of descent begins with the right column. The light, represented by a holy name, is visualized descending from its present in quotes place, also represented by a specific holy name, going down into the three-layered vessel of the Saphira underneath it. From this Saphira to the next, downward until all three Sefirot of the right column in Zah have received the light. From here, Zah then passes down the light to the right column of Nok, in similar fashion to how Zah itself received the light. This same pattern is then repeated for the left column and then the center column. Only with the center column the visualization is performed twice, once to bring down the Chasidim and once to bring down the Givurot. In this way, with 4 visualization exercises, the meditator assists to bring down the Mohin into Zah in the world of Atzilut. Again, as this happens in Atzilut, so does it correspondingly happen in all the lower worlds, including the world of inner man. Special note. The specifics of this system are quite detailed. The lists of holy names as outlined in the Kabbalistic Sidurim look quite unintelligible. However, when one understands the basics of the system as outlined here, then the pages and pages of meditation begin to open up and become decipherable. Mind you, Kavanot meditations are far more advanced and complicated than what I have here. All I have done is to ever so slightly open a door to let some light shine out. Even many of those who have studied Kabbalah for years still have a hard time performing Kavanot meditations. Therefore, what I'm about to present here is a greatly condensed form of what the holy Mekubalim do. In order to properly use this material, one should have a copy of the Rashash Kavanot Sidur for Pesach before them. With this basic explanation, one should be able to follow at least the general outline of the Kavanot. Without such a siddur, one should simply contemplate the thoughts associated with each of the mitzvot of the wine and matzah. The order of the Seder. A general rule must first be explained. The 2 major mitzvot of the Seder are the wine and the matzah. Both of these mitzvot become the focal points for receiving the influx of Sephirotic radiance now being poured down from the supernal worlds. As wine and matzah are inherently different in their form and structure, so too the Mohin that channel to earth are different from one another. Wine emanates from the side of the supernal feminine, whereas matzah, and all other breads, leavened or not, emanate from the side of the supernal masculine. In essence, wine emanates from Ima, Bina, and matzah emanates from Abba, Chochmah. The Seder begins, as do all of the Yamim Tovim, and with Kiddush. This Kiddush of Pesach is the first of our 4 cups of wine to be drunk during Seder. As explained earlier, all Shabbatot and Yamim Tovim manifest the level of divine manifestation, known as the Mohin of Gadlut rishon. This is the manifestation of the lower portion of the Sefirot Chochmah into Zah above. From Zah of Atzilut, the divine light flows downward through the worlds and into the mind of meditating man below. From the human mind, the divine light is projected onto the cup of wine now being blessed for Kiddush. Now here is where things get a little tricky. Although the wine and matzah emanate from the different columns of the Sephirotic tree of life, each nonetheless must receive full mohin from all 3 columns. Therefore, when we perform the meditations over the wine of the Kiddush, we must first draw down into Zah, and from him into us, and then onto the wine, the right column of the Sefirot. First the Mohin of Gadlut rishon, then Katnut sheni, and finally Gadlut sheni. Light into vessel, vessel after vessel, till the light descends down into the lowest of the right column vessels of the Nok. Yet this drawing forth of divine light down the right column is the divine light as it emanates from Ima, from her right column. In essence, this is the side of the masculine within the feminine. This is the Kavanot over the first cup of wine. The Kiddush meditations, Kavanot, begin with Gadlut rishon, not Katnut rishon. This is for a very good reason. The Mohin of Katnut rishon, corresponding to the name Elokim, are the lowest level of Mohin, or divine light, manifest in creation. As such, they are subject to attack from the forces of what we call the dark side. In order to protect this light from becoming contaminated, the Katnut rishon are concealed, as Gadlut rishon becomes manifest. Only later, with the eating of the karpas, do we meditate upon bringing down into Zah the Mohin of Katnut rishon. At this point, it is safe to manifest the Katnut rishon after the other Mohin have come first and decimated the forces of evil. Unlike the other Mohin, when the Katnut rishon are revealed, all three columns manifest at once, being that it is now safe to do so. One proceeds to recite the Haggadah according to its kosher order, is found in any one of the Orthodox Haggadot available. When we arrive at the second cup of wine, we meditate upon it as we did with the first. The only exception being that now we meditate upon bringing down the Mohin of Ima from the left column, light into vessel, vessel into vessel, etc. Now, of course, there are many more Kavanot in the first part of the Seder, but they are not associated to the manifestation of the Mohin in Zah, and therefore we do not have to discuss them now. After the second cup of wine is drunk, the Seder proceeds to the meal. Prior to eating the meal, we bless the Matzot with two blessings, one for bread, one for Matzah. Yet prior to these blessings, we now meditate upon manifesting the Mohin of Abba into Zah. Remember that the meditations on the wine manifest the Mohin of Ima, the meditations over the Matzah manifest the Mohin of Abba. As with the meditations over the wine, the meditations over the Matzah manifest the Mohin of Abba according to the order of the three columns. However, here with the Matzah, we do not divide the three columns as we do with the cups of wine. With the Matzot, we meditate first on the Mohin of the right column, then left column, then center column, Chasidim, Gvurot, of Katnut Sheni, then Gadlut Sheni, and finally Katnut Rishon. The Mohin of Gadlut Rishon were manifest already with the initial beginning of the holiday. So again, the order as is described above. First, we contemplate the light of God, represented here as specific holy names, and we visualize this light emanating from the Ein Sof and flowing into the specific vessels, each represented by its own specific holy name. Light into vessel, vessel into vessel, into vessel, etc. The order proceeds from the right column of the lowest Mohin through Zah into Nok. The left column is visualized in the same manner, followed by the center column, Chasidim and the Gevurot. After this is accomplished for the first of the Mohin, the same exact order is repeated for the other Mohin. The names used to represent the Mohin change, whereas the names of the vessels remain the same. Once one becomes familiar with the system, it is not too long thereafter that one will be able to memorize entire sections of the visualizations with relative ease. After the Pesach meal, Birkat HaMazon, grace after meals, is recited as usual. The third cup of the Seder is actually none other than the cup of wine traditionally drunk with the conclusion of Birkat HaMazon. At this time, we meditate and visualize the descent of the Chasidim of the dot into Zah. From Zah, the Mohin are visualized descending into Nok. As this happens, the Mohin descend into the mind of the meditator and into the third cup of wine itself. The fourth and final cup of wine is similar to the first, with the exception that the Mohin going into the vessels are the Gevurot of the dot, as opposed to the Chasidim. So to summarize, we have four Mohin from Chochmah, Bina, Chasidim, and Gevurot of the dot. These Mohin manifest in four stages called Katnut Rishon, Gadlut Rishon, Katnut Sheni, Gadlut Sheni. Yet, these four levels of Mohin exist equally in both Chochmah and Bina. Therefore, all Katnut, Rishon, and Sheni are manifestations of Bina, the lower, the upper half of the Saphira respectively. And that all Gadlut, Rishon, and Sheni are manifestations of Chochmah. And this applies equally to the subjective Sefirot of Bina and Chochmah within the general Sefirot of Bina and Chochmah. In other words, we have the Katnut and Gadlut of Ima Bina and the Katnut and Gadlut of Abba Chochmah. The Gadlut within Ima is from the Chochmah within Ima Bina. The Katnut within Abba is from the Bina within Abba Chochmah. Without a full comprehension of this significant aspect of overlap, an understanding of the Mohin of the Sefirot will be impossible. The power of this meditation empowers this time to be called a Lil Shimurim, a night of protection. For those who do not have a Rashash Seder to follow the Kavanot, a simple prayer before each drinking of each of the 4 cups will suffice. And one can use a formula similar to this. One can say, may it be your will, Hashem, that my drinking of this 1, first cup of wine, 2, second cup of wine, 3, third cup of wine, 4, fourth cup of wine, may that you, Hashem, manifest within Zah the Mohin from, number 1, the right column of Ima, number 2, the left column of Ima, 3, the Chasadim of the dot of Ima, and 4, the Gvurot of the dot of Ima. Continue and pray and say, from Zah, may these Mohin descend into Nok, and from Nok unto us, and into this cup of wine. For the sake of the unity of the Kudsha of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Hashem, and the Shekhinah, Amen. And for the Matzah, one can recite, may it be your will, Hashem, that by my eating this Matzah, that you manifest in Zah all the Mohin of Katnut and Gadlut rishon, and Katnut and Gadlut sheni, from all the 3 columns of the Sefirot within Abba. From Zah may these Mohin descend into Nok, and from Nok unto us, and into this Matzah. For the sake of the unity of the Holy One, blessed be He and His Shekhinah. Amen. Conclusion. One who performs this most minor form of Kavanot is still performing a great spiritual task of assisting the Sephirotic movements in the world of Atzilut. It certainly causes no harm, and they indeed perform great good. May Hashem bless us all with a happy, healthy, and kosher Pesach season, when that will bring us safety and redemption to our Holy Land and to us. Amen. And redemption to our Holy Land and to us. Amen. And redemption to our Holy Land and to us. Amen.